Hey guys, it's Nikki from Still Moments Nursery. I thought I'd take you through how I do my Real Effects air dry paint mottling technique. I've got a kit here that I've just applied a couple of flesh coats to, and now it's ready for the first coat of mottling. This particular kit is a Storm by Audrey Stote, so it's a I think it's a 21-inch doll kit, and she's a gorgeous doll kit. So she's got sleeping eyes, and I'll just quickly show you. So she's got sleeping eyes, and I love her little nose. The depth in Audrey Stote kits is just amazing, and her ears are just so cute. So she's ready for her mottling. So I've got my matte lac to make my paint stick to the vinyl. I've got my distilled water. I've got my Real Effects white paint, and I've got the Real Effects red paint. And I've also got my mixing tray. I've got my 1-inch Maxine mop to move the paint around. I've got my little brush to mix the paint. I've got a cosmetic wedge, which is nice and clean to actually pounce around and sort of move the paint around. And I've got my mini mop brush to actually apply the paint to the vinyl. So I'm going to start with adding a little bit of water to the mixing tray. You don't want as much as the flesh coat that you did. So I've got about that much water in it. And then I'm just going to add in my red paint. So I'm just going to add in just a little bit of red to start with. So just a tiny amount. And I'm just going to rub that into the water. Mix that in well. And I've also got a glass of water here just to sort of rinse off the brush as I'm using it. And just sort of keeps it clean and avoids your paints getting contaminated as well, because you don't want the red going into the white. So then I'm just going to add in just a little bit of white. So I'm just going to add in just the smallest amount of white to start with. So I'm just going to, just a tiny bit, and I'm just going to mix it in. And I'm trying to get a nice pale pink colour. So I'm just going to add a little bit more white, but I'm not going to put my brush back into the white paint. I'm just going to rinse it off first, just to get the red out of it. And then sort of just dry it off onto some towel. And then just gather a little bit more of the white and just mix it in again. It's just a matter of playing around with the two colours until you get a colour that you're sort of happy with. You don't want it bright red because it will stain the vinyl, so the lighter the colour the better, because then you can just build it up over time. So that's a little bit too red for me, so I'm just going to rinse off my brush again. And I'm going to add in just a little bit more white, because I just want that a nice pale pink, almost like a baby pastel pink sort of colour. So that's about where I want my paint. So a nice sort of pale baby pink. So then once I'm happy with my colour, I'm going to rinse off the brush again. And then you want to add in your matte lac. And the matte lac is actually designed to help the paint stick to the vinyl. So I'm just going to add in with your clean brush again. Probably double the amount of paint that I've just added to the palette. So I'll just sort of scoop about that much up, and then I'm just going to rub that into the paint. And you want to mix that really well before you apply it to your mini mop brush that you're going to apply the paint to the vinyl. You can see that that's actually got a lot thicker since I've added the matte lac, and I don't want it that thick, so I'm just going to add a little bit more water just to thin that down a little bit. There's probably another 4 drops or so. And mix it in really well. And I'm just going to sort of spread that over the palette, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my mini mop brush. I'm just going to gather. You want it fairly dry as well, so I'm just sort of going to tip up the palette like that, and you can see the paint just running down on the palette. And it's about at this stage you sort of want to gather just the top of the paint. And then what you're going to do is I'll do it on the leg first. With the legs I'll sort of start just sort of like on a test piece, so because babies have a lot more red just under the little legs here, so that's where I'm going to start my first mottling. This is actually going to tell me if my paint is too thick and is going to dry too quick, and sort of that I can't move it around and get the effect that I want. So I'm just going to sort of see if I've got the right consistency. So I'm just going to just sort of dab a little bit on there. And I'll just again gather just a little bit more paint. And sort of just spot it around, just like that. And as you can sort of see, because it's a pale pink colour, you're not going to see sort of it straight away. But the more you pounce, you can sort of see the colour building up. And if you want it a little bit sort of darker, you can just add a little bit more paint, or a little bit more red paint to your mix. But I actually find that I actually like it a nice pale colour, because then you can come over sort of 2 or 3 times and actually repeat the process. But you can just sort of play around and sort of pounce randomly in sort of places as well. And then once you're sort of seeing the little speckles of mottling come up, you can either just continue a little bit to sort of make sure it blends in nicely. And then you can sort of see the little colours of the little pink specks, which is what the mottling is. Then you can get your sponge and you can sort of just dab off any sort of darker spots that you don't want on the vinyl. And then you can move on to your next area. So just again sort of mix your paint around and then gather a little of the paint from the top area. And then you can sort of move on to the top area. And then you want to again sort of just randomly sort of put your paint on the vinyl. And then once you see the pink sort of coming up, sort of just move it around. And then with your sponge, just go through and sort of dab everything, all those dark bits off. You can sort of see the mottling. It's very light, but sort of once you've applied 3 to 4 coats of your mottling, it'll really stand out and really give that nice sort of under the skin transparent look to the mottling. So I'll just show you how I do that on the face. So I'm just going to just remix, sort of just moving my paint around so I can work with it. And then I'll just gather just a little bit on the brush. And then with the heads, again, I like to test before I apply any to the face. So I'll just either sort of apply a little bit of paint to the back of the head, because once you've applied hair, if it is too dark or too red, it actually looks quite good under the hair. So I'll just sort of test it on the back of the head. Again, just randomly pouncing. And I can see that's giving a nice mottling effect. So then I can come through again with my sponge and just sort of dab it off. And dab any sort of dark bits to blend them. And again, I'll just grab some more paint. You just sort of want to work in little areas, because you don't want to sort of apply your mottling to the whole doll and then come back and realise that you can't move the paint because it's actually dried. So I normally work in sort of, you know, just like a little area that big. And then once I'm happy with it, just grab my sponge again and sort of just dab off those darker spots. And you can see the mottling appearing just here. And then you can just keep moving around onto the face. So I'll just show you how I do my face. So I'll start on the forehead, because a lot of babies have mottling on their forehead. And you can just sort of dab on the paint. Work it down onto the little nose. And again, you're only working in those small areas, and then you can just sort of dab off using your sponge. And there's the mottling. And like I said, if you apply 2 or 3 coats of mottling, I do a coat of mottling, then I'll do a coat of flesh, then you can come back and sort of do maybe 2 more coats of mottling, and then more flesh coats, and that way the mottling is giving the appearance of being under the skin layers. And that's how I get my mottling effects, using the Real Effects air dry paints and my little mini mop brush and the sponge. You can also use the same technique, sort of getting off the paint with the sponge using your 1-inch Maxine mop brush. They work exactly the same way. I just chose to show you how to do it using your cosmetic sponges. So I'll show you basically once I've finished doing the mottling coat on this doll, and we'll move on and do sort of creases, and I'll show you the lips and how to darken the nostrils, and a few more tutorials on how to use the Real Effects air dry paints. So if you guys have got a few suggestions or tutorials that you would like to see, just leave them in the comments bar below, and I'll make sure I add them to the list of ones that I'm going to cover. But anyway guys, I hope you thought it was interesting and sort of how I use my Real Effects air dry paints. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments bar and I'll be happy to answer them. All the products, again, we sell the set of 8 Real Effects air dry paints on the website. Again, I'll put a link in the descriptions bar if you're interested in trying the Real Effects air dry paints. I can't fault them, I love them, and you guys will be seeing a lot more tutorials on them in the near future. So anyway guys, I hope you thought it was helpful, and thanks for watching. Bye!